Lately I've been trying to stretch my ITX computers to its limit. First the Threadripper build, where I fit a 16-core CPU into a case smaller than 8 liters. In this build, we're going to try multiple GPUs. With any larger project I take on, it starts with days of research to flatten out any problem. And the challenges ahead are turning one PCIe slot into 2 PCIe slots, fitting 2 GPUs in a dual slot bracket, and finding the components that can fit into an ITX enclosure. Luckily, there's a topic called PCIe bifurcation, which is commonly used by miners to add more GPUs to a rig. Now this bifurcation is only usable by specific motherboards that have BIOS support. After some research, it seems Z170, Z270, and Z370 ITX motherboards from Gigabyte support PCIe bifurcation, as denoted on their product page. And ASRock has been sliding PCIe bifurcation support into their ITX motherboards, including the Z390 Phantom Gaming for the 9th gen Intel CPUs, and the B450 Fatality motherboard for Ryzen CPUs. With the bifurcation settled, we must find a riser cable to split the single X16 slot into 2 separate X8 slots. After some more research, a custom PCB maker, C-Pain, was able to produce a by16 to dual by 8 PCIe splitter with a riser width of only 20 centimeters. It's perfect for dual single slot cards. Luckily, it's been researched that the X8 bandwidth seems to have no effect on current GPU performance. It takes 2080 Ti's in SLI to only have a 2 to 3% degradation. Now for a modern card to be single slot, it either needs to be a Galax GTX 1070 Katana, which is extremely hard to find on the market, or a water-cooled card. The GPU choice was hard because there are some issues with NVIDIA cards. For a multiple GPU setup to work with NVIDIA, the SLI certification needs to be enabled, and altering any drivers or BIOS will likely create other problems, especially in games that now have anti-cheat checks. 0 ITX motherboards have the certification, obviously because of the lack of PCIe lanes. OzTalk's Hardware briefly speaks about uncertified SLI issues in his different SLI auto videos, pairing 2 GTX 1030s together and 2 RTX 2060s together. His videos were extremely helpful during this project. Now for AMD multiple GPU builds, the only verification needed for Crossfire is to have 2 GPUs connected with at least X4 PCIe 3.0 bandwidth. So AMD seems to be the easier route. The case chosen was the Louqe Ghost S1, and this allowed for GPUs to be placed in the sandwich style layout and not to interfere with any other components. With a large top hat, the GPUs could utilize a small alpha cool pump and a 240mm radiator. The rest of the build was planned through PC Part Picker, going with a Ryzen 5 1600 and the B450 Fatality motherboard, which supports PCIe bifurcation as mentioned previously. And lastly, dual MSI AirBoost VEGA 56 GPUs with EK Waterbox are used. Now, meet Obsidian. After going into the BIOS and changing PCIe settings from 1x16 to 2x8, everything worked wonderfully. Luckily the card had the exact same BIOS on them, so there was no need to flash the GPUs. When the system loaded and AMD settings were pulled up, Crossfire was already enabled and ready to go. Testing thermals, the GPUs ran in Crossfire on default settings of Heaven benchmark for 2 straight hours, and both GPUs stayed under 49°C. A success! Now, would I recommend this system? Not really. Mostly because the multiple GPU compatibility is being ignored by game developers. And currently, the only game in my library that really benefits from Crossfire is Battlefield 4. GTA 5, Destiny 2, and Mass Effect Andromeda even have negative scaling with Crossfire enabled. Either way, Obsidian wasn't about should it be done, but rather can it be done. So I hope everyone enjoyed this project, and if you haven't seen my previous Extreme ITX build, go check that out. Please leave any questions or comments below, and be sure to subscribe. I'm Cameron, and this is Definitely Tech.